So, we're talking today about silver and how we know our antique pieces are actually silver. In this country, we have the oldest hallmarking laws, which are a form of consumer protection, which still is very, very relevant today and is looked after by the Antique Plate Committee at Goldsmiths Hall. You look at your piece and you're looking for the marks, and it is the hallmarks on English silver that will tell you whether it is silver and what standard that silver is. Silver has to be alloyed with a different metal in order to make it durable and useful, and we have two standards which are used in this country. The sterling silver, which is 925 parts pure silver per thousand, being the whole object, and then we have Britannia silver, which has a higher silver content. The majority of what you will see will be sterling silver, as it's known in America, and what we're really looking for on those pieces is the line passant, and this is what we call the walking line, and that shows that it's English silver. You will also have other marks alongside it, which are the assay office mark. You have a Lecker's Head for London or an anchor for Birmingham. You've got Sheffield, Glasgow, all these other assay offices, and then you have the date letter, and that date letter indicates when the piece was actually marked. Alongside that, you may have a mark which depicts the monarch's head. This was used principally during the 18th and 19th century for the duty paid on the weight of silver. This is really important because in past times you would have what we call duty dodgers, and these were the people who would, for example, have a watch case hallmarked and then would put those hallmarks into the bottom of a much bigger piece like a punch bowl, so it appeared that the duty had actually been paid on them. So these pieces are still illegal to sell even if the crime took place in the 18th century, and the rest of the piece of silver would have to be tested to make sure that it conformed to the 925 standard. The other times that you get the monarch's head are to commemorate the Silver Jubilee. You have Queen Elizabeth II's head, and there are some other commemorative marks that are put alongside the silver hallmark. And the other important mark that you will get on pieces of silver are the maker's mark, and it can make a real difference to the value of the piece of silver depending on the maker. So for example, we have a little snuff box here which is by the well-known silver maker Nathaniel Mills. So that is collectible because of the maker. It adds value. And then we have something extraordinarily piece of silver, the table center, and some of these parts are actually removable. So for example, the lady screws off, these all unscrew, and the fact is they all need to have hallmarks. All the different bits need to have hallmarks. The extraordinary thing about this piece is when it was actually purchased originally, it was purchased as being silver plate rather than solid silver, whereas it is solid silver and it is by one of this country's renowned silversmiths that went on to make the partnership Hunt and Roskill, and because of its size, its importance and its quality, it has an estimate of £6,000 to £8,000. Now, not all pieces of silver are hallmarked. For example, continental pieces of silver will have their own marks on them. So if you don't see an English hallmark, it may have a continental hallmark. But this is not considered a guarantee as to the fineness of the silver in this country, and we would have to describe them as being white metal, not using the word silver, with Russian hallmarks, for example, in this case. They also use lesser standards of silver, and you might have pieces that were made out of 800 standard silver. It's still relevant and still has value, but it isn't as collectible as some of the English equivalents of the same piece. You get lots of what we call pseudo silver marks, and these were absolutely designed to confuse people, and they still confuse people today. They have a lot of symbols put together that make it look like a silver hallmark, but you may have, they were outlawed, and you may have words like EP or EPNS. This stands for electroplated nickel silver, and these marks do indicate that they are silver plate. Just because of the way we live our lives, that silver has become a collectible item, whereas silver plate hasn't, because these were the cheaper objects that were mass produced, and a lot of the silver plate today has got very, very little value. But it is always worth checking out to see whether you have got silver or silver plate.